on the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Open Line on this Monday evening. I'm Carrie Sharp. Great topic for you, as always, tonight. We're talking about the cost of parenting and what that looks like across our state economically, just to have a family and be a parent. We're also talking about discrimination within the workplace when it comes to being a parent or being pregnant. If you have questions, calls, or experiences that you would like to share, we're going to pop that number up on the screen. Go ahead, give us a call. We'd love to get that lined up and just have a conversation about this topic tonight. I want to introduce you to our two guests as we get started. We have Shanna Hughey from Think Tennessee and Feroza Freeland from A Better Balance. Ladies, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I would love for you just to introduce your organization and tell me how it kind of relates to this topic.
Sure. So I run Think Tennessee, which is a statewide nonpartisan think tank. And we are focused on two things: growing a state that really has, that promotes civic engagement. So we want to see a state where all Tennesseans can be civically engaged, and all Tennessee families can be economically secure. And so we do everything from research to advocacy on those two topics: civic engagement and family economic security. And the second part is really where this topic comes in. You know, how can we make sure that working mothers and working fathers in our state are able to keep their family economically secure?
And we're going to drill into that in a second. But Feroza, tell me about A Better Balance.
Absolutely. So A Better Balance is a national nonprofit legal organization. Our southern office is based right here in Nashville, and we do work throughout the Southeast. Our organization leverages the power of the law to ensure that all workers are able to care for themselves and their families without risking their economic security.
And when we talk about being a parent and caring for others, we are not just talking about being a parent to children, but also being a parent and then being asked to take care of your parents and the cost and the burden that is to many families across Tennessee right now. But you mentioned a term, Shana, when it comes to families, about being to just economically make it as a family. Explain that to me.
Sure. So, you know, the amount of money, and it's common sense, right? But the number of folks in your family determines how much money you need to make to support that family.
To be secure.
Exactly. And it's important, right? We're not just talking about poverty. We're talking about, which is also an important indicator, we're really thinking about how much money do you need to earn to be secure, which sort of the term of art means you have enough money to pay for your basic needs and save a little bit for retirement or emergencies. And so, you know, again, depending on how many folks are in your family, you need to earn a certain amount to reach that. But the thing that we know is that, you know, lots of folks, both married and single, lots of parents, both married and single, do struggle with economic security. But the folks who struggle the most are our single moms.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
So we know that 73% of single moms in Tennessee do not have basic economic security.
73%, 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4, almost.
Single moms. And there are so many single moms.
There are, in fact, 126,887 single moms, or, you know, families headed by single moms. So this is not a small problem. That number of single moms who have an annual income below $40,000.
And quite frankly, that's just hard to make it.
Well, it is, and we know, for instance, that if you're just one mom, one kid, you need to earn at least $43,260. So throwing a ton of numbers at you, but essentially you got to earn more than 126,887 families are headed by single moms are making to meet that economic security, and that's just if it's one parent, one child.
So that brings me to the question: we're gonna throw out more numbers when it comes to single dads, and of course, you know, intact families as well. But what does that mean? What changes need to be made? I know something's going to be proposed up on Capitol Hill during the next legislative session. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the big issues that we see at A Better Balance is the issue of accommodations in the workplace for pregnant women and new mothers.
Okay.
So, you know, as many folks probably know, when you're pregnant or a new mom, you may need some very reasonable minor accommodations in order to stay safe and healthy and continue working to support your family. So these are things like a few extra bathroom breaks or having a stool to sit on if you have to stand a lot in your job. very reasonable minor accommodations. The problem is, and at A Better Balance, we operate a free and confidential legal helpline. And so we hear from women from across our state and across the country who are being denied these accommodations at work. And so then these women are put in a really difficult situation of, do I do what's right for my health and the health of my pregnancy, or, do I sort of risk my health in order to keep working and earning this paycheck that I really need? And of course, this issue is so pronounced for especially our single mothers in the state. And so the Tennessee Pregnant Workers Fairness Act has been proposed by A Better Balance to guarantee these pregnant workers a clear right to reasonable accommodations in the workplace. This is an issue that A Better Balance has worked on across the country. We actually have 27 other states that have passed similar legislation, including our neighbors in Kentucky and South Carolina. So, this is something that we're really trying to spread the word about and share with folks about the issues that are going on in our state.
And you said you have bipartisan support and support from the business community.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something, I mentioned the 27 states, and nearly all of those passed with broad bipartisan support, and a lot of times there was backing from the business community as well. For example, in Kentucky, that just passed earlier this year, A Better Balance worked very closely with advocates on the ground in that state, and the Metro Louisville Chamber of Commerce was very supportive of that legislation.
So does the legislation spell out, pregnant women need X, Y, Z, or you're in violation, or is it pretty open-ended?
That's a great question. And so this is something we talk about a lot, is that really the goal of this legislation is to facilitate that dialogue between the pregnant worker and her employer. So it's really meant to be on a case-by-case basis. And, it is meant to be a two-way dialogue and for them to figure out, what accommodations can work, in that workplace for both parties. So, the legislation lists examples of what reasonable accommodations may be, but, we really want to empower those pregnant workers, often in consultation with their doctors, to come up with a solution that works for them and works for their employer. And the other thing I'll say about that is, in the legislation there is an undue hardship exemption. So what that says is, if the accommodation would be really expensive or really difficult for the employer to comply with, they would not have to provide that.
What would be an example of something like that maybe you've come across in other states when someone's brought up an example and said, well, this just can't work. We can't make this happen. Yeah,
well, so something we hear about sometimes is, constructing a whole new space for, lactation, for example. And especially smaller employers may be really concerned about that. And, we say that, that would typically on a case-by-case basis, but probably be, exempted under the undue hardship exemption, of course, depending on the employer and depending on the situation. But again, that's really the goal of the law, is to allow employers and employees to sit down and work things out between themselves, but come to a solution that works for everyone and that ultimately allows that pregnant woman to keep working and stay healthy and have a healthy pregnancy.
And really to be empowered, because I think that there is a lot of fear surrounding a woman speaking up, and also not being able to be seen as weak or less than during this process, right?
Right. And the other point too is, of course, many pregnant women are able to work throughout their pregnancies, no problem, and they don't need any special accommodations. And so, it's definitely all about empowering the women to, make whatever decision is best for them. But that is an issue of women, being afraid to even turn in their doctor's notes sometimes. And it may be that the employer would be more than happy to accommodate them, but there's just that fear and that uncertainty.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, we've got the conversation started. We would love for you to join in. The number is on the screen. 615-737-PLUS is the number to call. Let us know about your experiences, or if you have questions about what is legal, what is not legal in Tennessee, and what can be done. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and give us a call. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.